This is the London Fintech Podcast, bringing you practical insights and approaches, stories and inspiration from the innovators who are building the new world of financial services. This podcast is brought to you by NextWave, strategy specialists and solutions for financial institutions. This is the London Fintech Podcast, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about global cross-border payments. The total value of cross-border payments is around $200 trillion a year and rising by about another $10 trillion annually. And this is all driven by international e-commerce, global workforce mobility, advancements in digital payments solutions. There are lots of different cross-border payments companies. It's actually really complicated. There are banks, old and new, mobile payments firms, e-commerce providers, global payroll companies, and not to mention the credit card players and big tech with the likes of Amazon Pay and Shopify Pay also. Today's guest launched his fintech into this crowded space and has created one of Europe's fastest growing companies, which is nearing the €100 million ARR and revenues which have grown 30% year on year and is also now profitable. So really very much in the scale up territory. Pierre-Antoine Dusoulier was a London FX trader, then owner of an FX brokerage, before becoming Saxo Bank's youngest regional chief executive officer and starting IBAN First in his spare time. Welcome, Pierre-Antoine.
Welcome, Tony. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. You know, the payment space is, as I said, a complicated space. There's lots to talk about, and we're going to get into that. But before we get started on the topic of payments, and perhaps a little bit about you, where did you start out in your career, and what did you do before IBAN First?
I start actually working in a bank. So I worked in a French bank out of London. It was my first job back, more than 20 years ago now. And I was a FX trader over there, dealing on emerging market currencies. And very quickly, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I quit this bank and I started my first company, brokerage and CFT brokerage company out of Paris. Was the first company with a license, the license given by the French regulators to do this business in Europe. So this business was very common in the UK at that time, but nobody was doing it in Europe. So this business worked very well. And I sold it to Saxo Bank. Then I ran Saxo Bank operation for a few years, Saxo Bank operation for Western Europe. And then I started my second company, which is IBAN First.
That's a little bit of history that I didn't pick up in my research, actually. So IBAN First was not your first startup. So you had done that before. And the inspiration for IBAN First, what was the business idea? What was the spark for IBAN First when you really got started?
So the idea is that with my first company, I understood very well how to get good price around FX market, so foreign exchange. Then also I understood quickly that it was very cheap to do some payment. When you do euro to euro payment, it's cheap. When you do pound to pound payment, is cheap. When you do dollar to dollar payment, it's cheap. But once on FX is cheap also. It's easy to get good price on the FX market. But once you put the two together, so payment and FX together, then suddenly it's becoming very expensive. Very expensive for everybody, but also for corporate company. So I was thinking nobody is set up a good service around that, around the possibility of offering cross-border payment real-time cross-border attached to a payment to SMEs. So this was the original idea.
And the name, IBAN First, IBAN being the international banking account numbering scheme, but so I sort of got a clue where that came from. But how did you pick the name?
Now the name, actually, we had another name at the beginning, which was a mistake because we start out of Belgium. We have been very successful in continental Europe, but we had a name which was FX for Biz. So FX for exchange, the number 4, and Biz for business. So it was FX for Biz, FX for business. But actually in France, when we were calling prospects and we were saying, it's FX for Biz, nobody was understanding what it was about. We were saying, it's François Xavier, F like François, X like Xavier. So it didn't work very well in our first geographies. So we had to change the name, and we wanted something that shows exactly what we do. As you said, IBAN means actually international banking account number. So we were thinking it's good to use that because actually at that time, and still actually, we are one of the only PSP with a direct connection with SWIFT. So being able to generate our own IBANs and to give those IBANs to our clients. So it's one of the unique things that we do. So we wanted to put it in the name directly.
Yeah. So no doubt about what the business is doing. So from inception, did you bootstrap the business through the first few years? Were you self-funded, or did you take funding from the outset to launch IBAN First?
So at the beginning of the beginning, because I had sold my first company and I had made a little bit of money with that, actually I self-funded the company for 2.5 years. I started up, I got a little team, and actually we were building the product, building a core banking system, doing direct connection with banks, and also getting some license in continental Europe. So at the beginning, it was, I preferred to self-fund all that because it took me like 2 years to get the first revenue, and it's better actually to be able to fund yourself once you with investors once you start to generate small revenue. So once we start to regenerate revenue and to get some traction, then yeah, I raise money with VCs. I've done 3 rounds of VC, so Series A, B, C, and then we've done a little LBO with a private equity firm back in 2021. I mean, and we have done this round with Marlin Equity once we saw that the company was able to being EBITDA positive. And yeah, this was the idea of this last round.
So then this will be interesting to the founder audience that the show has. You've had the VC experience and the PE experience. So do you have a view on the right time to do that and the benefits perhaps of each approach?
Definitely. I think it's two very different worlds actually, but it really depends on the maturity of your company. I mean, VC are very important when you are building a business, building a company, starting a company. Then once you really want to scale it, you can go to a growth equity world, which is not really private equity, fully private equity. Actually, when I say we've done an LBO, it was like growth private equity, because actually we were not profitable when we've done it, and also we didn't raise so much debt in order to fund this LBO. So I don't know actually the real PE world yet, even if we are EBITDA positive, and even actually if we would do another round now, it would be with a real, let's say, private equity. But the round we made with gross private equity. And I think what is interesting for the founders and people that are doing this is that actually it changed totally your waterfall. So with Series A, B, C, actually you give a lot of preferred shares to VCs, which is normal actually because they take a big risk on high valuation when they invest in your company at the beginning. But once you go to the PE world, you are in a pari passu world with your other investors, which is very different in terms of risk. So I mean, if you stay with VC forever, and if at some point you grow, if you are not delivering everything you promised, if 1 year something is going not exactly according to the plan, if you have a lot of preferred shares on your cap table, it can be a big risk for you as a founder, because then if you are obliged to refund, to do another funding round, or obliged to do a deal around the company, to sell the company or something like this, actually, even with, 20, 30, 40% of the cap table, if you have a lot of preferred shares on evaluation on your back, you could be in a situation where actually you do zero cash out, which is not nice when you spend 10 years building a company. In the private equity world, the risk is not exactly the same. So it's less risky actually for the investors. So they don't ask for preferred shares. Then you're in a situation where you are pari passu, so your shares have the same risk than the risk of the investors, which is good, let's say, in downside. If you want to be covered in against downside risk. Yeah, so it's one of the main difference.
Would you do it the same way if you were going again?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think also it's interesting, to build the company, like let's say by the book. You do the seed. I mean, my seed was with my own money, but you do the seed and the VC, because every investors also are bringing different skills, different knowledge in terms of where do you want to how do you want to grow the company and stuff like that. So actually, VC, for example, at our stage, is probably not good. But it was very useful to have some VC with us at some point. And also, you can't have a private equity arriving in your company if you've never done any round before. I mean, you have to learn what investors want. If you want to make a big company, you need to raise a lot of money. If you want to raise a lot of money, you can't raise a lot of money day one. It's really a learning pace. The first VC you are talking to for your Series A are not the same quality, or they don't have the same skills than the VC you are using in Series B, and etc. etc. So I think it's a good way of doing it. And there are other solutions to make a big company, but here it's really we use the buy the book solution of growing a company from 0 to 100 million where we are now.
Yeah, and I would certainly say it's worked for IBAN First. And I was just going to ask you, where do you think you are on your growth journey? 100 million ARR for any fintech is a very significant milestone. It's apparently 7 times rarer than being a unicorn fintech. So you're in a small club of significant scale-up fintechs in the sector. I mean, what's your vision for the business, and how far do you think you've got to go?
I didn't know this figure, so I'm happy if you give me the source. I will give you because I will say it to my kids, because my kids are always telling me this thing about unicorn. I mean, so are you a unicorn now? Are you a unicorn? Because I told them about this unicorn stuff, and I always tell them, it's more complicated what you think, because unicorn is actually for VC funding, and it's different story once you have you are a profitable company like us. So I'm never saying, but now if I can tell them we are even rarer than unicorns, then they are going to like it a lot.
It's called centaur status apparently, and I'll name check my data partners Quantexa for that one, because they reached the same milestone. And which is why I know that it's a rarer thing than being a unicorn. Yeah. But for IBAN First, what's your vision for the business, and how much further are you going to take it?
So what is interesting, we are attacking a very large market. The size of the market, you said it at the beginning of the podcast, is huge. I mean, they are on this market also is owned by banks, still owned by banks for 95%. It's 95% of the businesses, they are still using a bank to do their cross-border payment operation. So we are just very small still in this market. And the potential for us is not like 100 million ARR, but it's more like 1 billion ARR in the next few years. And it can be very, very fast because, 5 years ago, we had to convince a CFO or a CEO that it was making sense to use us instead of a bank to do a cross-border operation. Now it's really easier. I mean, we have 10,000 clients that are happy. We have like 80 of NPS. So they say to other people that they're happy about the service. I mean, they save time, they save money. The UX is better than with any bank. The full experience, everything they do is better with us in terms of experience than what they are going to do with a bank. And also it sounds logical. We are developing an expertise only on this aspect around cross-border payment, on everything around payment. And there are a lot of features to develop actually to help a CFO to do his cross-border payment. It's all those features, we are working on them. We are pushing them one by one, weeks after weeks. And at the end, we have a product that is like 10 times better than everything on the market. So it means that at the end, probably it would be like more like 95% of the clients of the SMEs doing cross-border payment that will use us or somebody like us instead of a bank in the future. And actually, you have the example of Wise. Wise have done this, but on the private retail market. If you remember 12 years ago, everybody was using his own bank to do a cross-border payment. Now, most of the people, they understand that Wise is doing a better job than the bank to do that. So most of the people, they are using Wise instead of a bank.
Yeah. So you're going to be going after a pretty big chunk of the $200 trillion that we were talking about a few minutes ago. And we'll come back to, in just a moment, we're going to come back to a bit more about what differentiates IBAN First and how you're doing this. And I think it's going to be super interesting for our listeners. But just before we do that, and it's remarkable how much you've achieved so far. I can only imagine what your schedule's like. But when you're not working on the business, what do you do to clock off?
Like everybody, I told you about my kids, so I'm spending a lot of time with the kids. I think it's the best. So spending time with the kids, playing tennis, and actually I do something else right now. I'm also building a house in France, so from scratch. And I can see actually it's even I think it's almost more difficult than building a company. To build a house and to manage a lot of people around it's kind of nightmare. But yeah, I hope it's going to be nice at the end. But yeah.
It's probably the planning restrictions as much as the construction, but it's certainly going to give you an opportunity to think about something else apart from the business occasionally. So let's talk a bit more about IBAN First and cross-border payments then. And I was really resonating with what you were saying about the market opportunity. And if I can characterize the Next Wave business, my consulting business, which regular listeners will know is really my core job. We're in UK, we're in Italy, we're in Switzerland, we're in the US, and we're moving dollars, euros, sterling, and occasionally Swiss francs around from time to time. And we're doing it by using some fairly crude payment gateways and sometimes bank-to-bank accounts. I've got business bank accounts with two different banks, one of which is Revolut. So actually, there may be a conversation after this recording about the 10,001 client, but I recognise the issue of high fees and rates that move and not being able to see everything in one place and so forth. But in your words, I mean, what do you think the SME challenges that your client base are facing? Why do they come to IBAN First?
So they are coming for plenty of reasons. Because actually, not a lot of people are fully satisfied with their banks, because actually, you said it also, most of the SMEs, they don't have only one bank, they have like several banking relations. And it's where it's becoming interesting, because you have several banking relations, because you need a bank to borrow money, you need a bank, you get another bank because probably is going to pay good interest rate on the account. And then you can get a relation also with people like us because you want to do some FX. So you have like multiple people that are serving your needs. But what we see is that actually, when you want to do some payments, not only cross-border payments, but also like domestic payments, we have a lot of clients that are using us because they have to decide in the morning if they want to use their account at HSBC, at Lloyds, at BNP Paribas, or at IBAN First. And at the end, we have a better UX, and also we have plenty of features that are better for them if they need to do a payment. I can give you some few examples about those features and that make us really different. We have everything that we call manage my office. So it's very easy, and we want to make that very easy for our client to set up a multi-signature on the platform. So you want to be able to give rights inside your company to other people to do some payment, to watch what is on the account. You want also to have some payment with double signature. You have somebody who's going to code the payment, another person that is going to sign. So all this is really easy to set up with us. And if you go to a typical player, a typical bank, it's going to be very complicated to ask them to have this in place. You have this. You have also a multi-entity setup, which is really nice to have. So any SME very quickly, actually, it's not only one entity, it's a group. Very quickly, you have like different setup below this group. So you can have one entity in one country, one in another one, and probably you want to see all those entities at the same place. It's easier. So we have those features around how to manage group level cash inside IBAN First platform. So this is like the first pillar of our offering, which is around manage your office. The second pillar, it's about security. Security is key for everybody on security of payment. We have confirmation of pay now in the UK. It's not yet in Europe. It will be at the end of the year. But you want to be sure that for example, to have some accounts on which you can do third-party payment. Some other accounts, you don't want them to do third-party. You want to be in full control, actually, of where your money is and how you control the flows. And again, these are things that we are providing to help our clients to be in full control of their money in terms of security. So this is the second thing. The third thing is about automation. We are offering a lot of things around automation, API, different format files, if you want to do bulk payments and stuff like that. Again, it's easy to set up compared to what you have on the market on the banking side. So you can easily have an API and plug it to your internal system if you want to start to do some automation. Then, so I can continue and so on. So we do a lot of things like this, and actually at the end, FX, it's like only the last thing, it's the easier thing to do for us. It's what is important is really the rest, everything around the payment, the autonomy of the client, the automation of the client, the security, and how it's managed that. And it's really the reason why actually the clients are coming to us.
Yeah, no, I love the single platform aspects. As you said, the FX transfers are only a very small part of that. A couple of things. The cash balances that your clients hold, are they actually held with IBAN First, or are you a layer over the top of a banking relationship?
So we are not a bank. We are a PSP on EMI also. So it's so the money of our client is not with us. In French we say cantonné. So I don't know, it's segregated. So yes. The money is segregated from our account. So which is actually very secure for the client. And then this money is in several banks which are all AAA rated very secure on accounts that are segregated inside every bank. Our clients are actually leaving like very often large balance with us because they do some cash pooling. So it's actually the first start of like kind of automation. So, if you are starting to think about saving time, doing things to be more organized, you start to do some cash pooling, putting a bit of cash with us, and then using us to do all your like easy payment to do, and because it's going to be faster and save you time to do it like this instead of doing some payment with one bank, some other with other bank, and then you start to centralize. And clients are centralizing this.
So you can pooling across accounts and currencies. And I think one of your differentiators is the fees level as well. And if I read it right ahead of this discussion, transfers between IBAN First accounts don't incur a fee. Does that imply that I can swap my pound sterling into dollars without paying a fee, and I'm just operating at a market rate, or how does that work?
No, I mean on FX, what we like to is to be very transparent. So you get the average spread we take on FX is 0.3. So on average, you get 0.3 spread, and you have on the screen real time. So with the rate moving, the market rate plus the rate that is used for the transaction. So the rate used by the transaction is going to be on average 0.3. Sometimes it can be a bit more or a bit less, but average is going to be 0.3, which is our margin on all those transactions. Obviously, this margin is way lower than what you can get elsewhere.
I know risk management is also a feature. So can you talk about that for a few minutes, managing FX risk and some of the tools that you've put in place to allow treasurers to do that on your platform?
Yeah, so what we do, you can lock the rate attached to a payment. So with a basic forward contract, and also with like more different forward contract, what we call, for example, flexible forward contract. What is interesting is that you can do that on the platform. So once you have locked, for example, a flexible forward contract, then you can use it when you want to use it on the platform. So I mean, if you know that you have to pay for 2 million euro somebody or some of your different providers for the next 6 months, but you don't know exactly when you are going to pay them, you can lock a rate for 6 months, and you lock it for 2 million for 6 months, and you can use it when you want. So you can use K during the first week, then 1 million after 2 months, then K after 4 months. And so it gives you a total flexibility with a rate which is locked for the full period, which is a really cool feature because you can do that in full automation by yourself on the platform. The rate is locked, and you take it when you want, or you do all your payment at this special rate when you want.
Which is something you'd otherwise have to do on an exchange away from, decoupled from your transfers and your accounts.
Yeah, exactly. So it's what I was saying at the beginning. Also, really the idea of the company was to link FX on payment together, which is not what is done in a typical bank. Typical bank FX on forward contract are done in a dealing room. On the payment is done in another part of the bank. But actually, if you're an SME, you just want to do a payment with a good FX rate, but you don't want to do a phone call to a dealing room, trying to negotiate a rate, and then going back to your online banking, then doing a payment. So we have done all that at the same place, and everything is automated and easy to do. And fast.
And do you find it a competitive landscape? You know, I talked at the top of the episode about the complicated ecosystem, and you have got Wise, and you've got Revolut Business, you've got JP Morgan Payments, you've got big tech, and you've got FX brokers like Money Corp, and there's all sorts of players in this space. So did you find that there's a lot of competition for what IBAN First does, or do you feel that you've got sufficient differentiation in that product market fit that you're not too worried about the competition?
Obviously, I'm going to tell you it's fine. No, for real, I think, I mean, what is interesting is this market is huge. Again, there are some space for every player, and actually, we are focusing on very niche markets. So, for example, if you talk about Wise, Revolut, they are really focusing on the low end of the businesses because they are offering. They don't have all the features for business that we have. They don't have payment trackers. They don't have the multi-signature I've been talking about. They don't have a lot of this kind of stuff that are very important for an SMEs that we are targeting. Us, we don't want the very small SMEs. We want the ones that are a bit bigger, that are going to use and like all those features. And where we are not competing actually with Wise. At the same time, we are not the perfect fit for the huge corporate because on their side, they are also building their own system. Actually, on their side, they have segregated payment on FX. They are talking to the dealing room, those guys. So for them, actually, they don't really need the IBAN First neither. So those guys, the bank and the JP Morgan of this world are a good fit. So we have found our niche market, which is actually big, but we found it exactly on what we do for the kind of client we are targeting. We don't see any competition. There is nobody doing the same things than us exactly on this. Again, I mean, we can compete sometimes with Money Corp or with Wise or with Barclays, but at the end, we have the best solution for exactly the client we are targeting. So we are winning most of the case when we are in competition with those guys.
Yeah, well, clearly, I love that. And so there are going to be different firms who have components of your capabilities, but the unique offer of what you do altogether and that alignment with the market seems very clear to me. And I guess that's being borne out in the growth rate and the success that you're enjoying. I mean, how much of that success would you say is down to your technology stack, the FX technology stack? This is a very technical space. You need to, very reliably and under regulation, move large sums of money and do it quickly and provide it a top class user experience. And this is all really down to technology in my view. I mean, how much would you say is really the effort, the tech stack and the uniqueness of your technology approach?
And just to set the basic stuff, everything is about people. So if we have been successful, it's about thanks to the people that have been working inside the company. So for sure, it's because we have been able to attract the best developers, the best managers, that we have been able to build a great business. And then once saying that, we can say that 100% of the success of what we do is linked about the vision of the company, about the technology and the vision, because since day one, we wanted to build a platform with our own core banking. We wanted to have a direct integration to SWIFT, which is very unique, very costly, actually, when you start a PSP. So we wanted to have this. It's not something you see in other, actually, PSPs. We wanted to have homologation for SEPA, so to do euro to euro payments, so to be directly linked to the SEPA network to do very quickly those things. We wanted to have a correspondent banking relation with like tier one banks, but not only one, but several ones. So we have done all that, and it gives us a capability that actually now the platform really it's better if you want to be faster, cheaper in terms of payment than everywhere else. You use us, and is going to be the case. So yeah, a lot is down to those investments we have done since the beginning. And also, if you think about it now, we have like 130 developers working on the platform. I mean, developers on product, people working on product. And they are working, I mean, our platform is doing only managing those payment cross-border for SMEs. I mean, it's a big team working on such a specific matter. Just thinking about to make this experience about cross-border payment for SME better, and you don't have anybody in the industry or even big banks that have such teams working specifically on those matters. So it's giving us a perpetual edge in terms of the new features we are able to produce, and how we can improve the platform, always improve the platform. So yeah.
And I love that you acknowledge the people first. You clearly have built the technology, but it feels to me that IBAN First was built to scale from the very beginning. So there's investments on getting onto SEPA and the SWIFT network, and having such a big development team with what sounds like a real laser focus on improving the payments capabilities. I mean, that's going to keep you on the front foot. I can very much see that. And you talked about the people there, but it's not just your development teams, I believe. So is part of the client service here an FX advisory or FX support capability on the risk management and the services that your clients take from you?
Yeah, definitely. We have also, I think, what is important and something you can't find actually with some other players also is to have a great support. Again, if you are an individual using Wise and your payment is stuck somewhere, it's bad and you are not happy, but probably your payment is going to work after like 2 days, 5 days, 10 days. Because sometimes, because of compliance, correspondent banking system, sometimes there is an issue in the payment. And so you're not happy, but that's all. But if you are a corporate, and then there is an issue with the payment that you are doing, and you really need to have this payment working, because otherwise your business can't work, because you can't have the delivery of what you ordered because the payment have not been received. It can be a big issue. So it can be very important also to have some like basic support, being able to call a specialist of payment, a specialist of FX also. So you want to be in contact with somebody that's going to tell you, okay, don't worry, we know exactly what's going on. The payment is there, is going to be released tomorrow. Or don't worry, there is a bank holiday in the US, which is not a bank holiday in the UK. So there is a reason why there is 1 day difference on stuff like that. Everything is going to work. So yeah, to have support team that you can reach, it's something which is important for businesses. So it's what we built also.
Yeah, high value international payments for businesses. It's not a place where you just want to be talking to the chatbot and be redirected to a help article or something if you're lucky enough for there to be a help article. This is, I'm sure, a client base that needs a bit of handholding and direct support from time to time.
Exactly. And I can give you some example. You say a chatbot. This word of chatbot is forbidden. We have like support, but I didn't want it to have a like bot. So even if we are using some AI, it's not a bot. We call it AI, IBAN AI, not IBAN bot. And then you can be connected very quickly to somebody. We have forbidden also the auto reply email for the salespeople. So if you send an email to somebody in the organization, you will never receive an auto reply saying, yeah, I am in holidays, I am doing a training. Because if you're a client, you don't care actually. You just want to fix your payment issue. So you don't want to have like the guy replying to you that, yeah, he is not here. So the email will be taken care by somebody in the team immediately, and you will have a reply. So we try to do things like this in order to offer the best service we can to our client.
I love that illustration. Sort of client service first. Bid and auto replies. I'm going to remember that one now. Maybe next time I'm talking to a client service desk about something that's taking longer than it should. Okay, and just thinking sort of more broadly, geographies, locations. You've just received electronic money license from the FCA in the UK, I believe. Can you tell us why that's important?
Yeah, so in continental Europe, we had this EMI license, and it's really part of our global offering. So for the UK, actually, we bought a broker called Cornell that had a PSP license, but they didn't have the EMI license. So Cornell became IBanFirst UK, but with the PSP license only, we couldn't offer the full services that we can do in continental Europe. So we could do only with the PSP license, like brokerage services where people are doing like the FX payment, cross-border payment only, but all the other things that are linked to accounts where you receive money on the IBAN First account, you send money on other accounts, and you can keep some money on those accounts was not possible with the PSP license. So we needed an EMI license. Now we have it. So now we can have the same services in IBAN First UK than what we have in continental Europe. Actually, we do the real launch of this the 3rd of April. So official launch, because it's already launched for the past 2 months for existing clients, but it's going to be officially launched 3rd of April. We do a little party in our offices, and you are welcome to if you want to join us.
Thank you very much. I'll check my diary. But I think you will have done your launch and had your party by the time we release this episode.
Okay.
But I was just going to ask you, 10,000 clients. I mean, how many of them are in the UK? I guess maybe you're quite early at the starting point, given that you've now only able to offer the full service really from next month.
No, exactly. Very few are in the UK. The UK, which is not normal, and the reason why we want to have a big push here, is representing less than 5% of our total revenue. And we are very small. I mean, so we're just starting, but we really believe, again, and we define a little bit the landscape here. Monicorp, in the FX brokerage world. So we have FX brokers that we are competing with. We have like the big Wise and Revolut, and then the typical bank. And we are feeling very comfortable to compete with those people here, and it's what we want to do. So also what is interesting, UK market is a big market compared to continental Europe, where in France, for example, when we are pitching a client, he's telling us, yeah, I'm doing cross-border payment, but he's talking about France to Germany payment. So it's euro to euro payment, which is less valuable than payment where there are some FX rates. And in the UK, I mean, there are more SMEs that have this FX rate.
Well, I think you've got a huge opportunity in the UK, and I represent an SME that, as we discussed, does use these fragmented services like this. I don't see anything comparable. Your point about the cross-currency business being more profitable for the business, yeah, everyone's going to be doing cross-currency activity, and London, of course, is one of the world's largest financial centres. So I would imagine that all features in the business plan, and there's going to be lots of upside launching into the UK market. And have you relocated yourself to London as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think because, IBAN First was launched in Belgium with a Belgium license. And then we passport this license everywhere in Europe. So we've been able to do business in 10 different countries across Europe thanks to this Belgium license. And actually, the UK is our second license. So it's the first time we have like another license. And so it means like it's an investment for us. And it means also we believe in this market, and we believe it can be big. Actually, we believe that it can be as big as our French market, which is number one market for us, very quickly. So I was thinking, yeah, it can be smart if I'm around to do this launch and I like London, so I'm very happy to be here to do that. So. Yeah.
But are you still based at home, or are you actually moving your office location to London for a period?
No, yeah. So right now I'm at home, but so I have a typical office at Liverpool Street, and that I really like. So I try to spend time. I mean, a bit around other offices also across Europe. But then otherwise at the office in London.
Yeah, I'm talking to you today from our offices on Liverpool Street. We're actually on Bishopsgate, so probably pretty close to where you're going to be. And future growth plans for IBAN First. So other than the launch in the UK, which sounds like a very, very big big thing in the roadmap. What else have you got planned? What's coming next?
Plenty of things. So we are launching new countries. We have this year. We announced already that we are launching Portugal. So we are going to have Portugal arriving. I think next month. It should be fully operational. Then we are launching also one other country. We will launch one other country in 2025. Then what else? Yeah, we are looking for acquisition also. So either to buy another broker which has some clients base. So for example, if you have like old school brokers that doesn't have technology, but as client where we can take those clients and put them on our platform, the client would be happy to have a new platform, new technology, will be able to cross-sell them and to upsell them. We've done that actually already in Netherlands. So how we develop our business in Netherlands, and it worked very well. So why not continuing to do that? And we are looking for targets. Second thing also, it's about technologies, adding some features to the platform that we didn't develop yet. And if we find nice companies that have already built some cool stuff, why not trying to buy them and to add those stuff on the platform? So
lots going on. Okay, so anyone out there who's got an FX brokerage and got some great clients, but maybe not the greatest technology, you should talk to Pierre-Antoine. It strikes me as a slight parallel, perhaps, with what's going on in the investment management wealth world, where 2/3 of firms have made acquisitions, and a lot of that, there's a lot of small firms out there who've got established client base and but have just not been able to scale and invest in the technology and the growth opportunity on a global stage in quite the same way. And I think there should be a really good opportunity for you there to build the platform inorganically with a few targeted acquisitions. Interesting to watch and see what happens.
No, yeah, exactly. It's interesting because investing in the technology, it's question of DNA also. So it's very difficult if you never done it in the past, and even if you have a great business, a business that never spent. We spent like really a lot over the years. And at some point, actually, it was a bit scary. We were thinking, what the fuck? Should we continue to develop all this ourselves? Or sometimes it could be better to rely on somebody else and to make directly some money, because actually we burnt a lot of money before being profitable now. So it's really question of mindset, believing in it. If you've never done it, it can be very difficult to suddenly say, okay, I'm going to spend money in the technology, because it's going to be very expensive and take you a lot of time. So a lot of people, they don't do it. And then, we can really be a solution for them if they want to leverage the value of their client basis. So it can be very win-win.
An interesting link to, and we're going to run out of time. We could talk about cross-border payments all day, but we'll run out of time shortly. So I'm going to sort of wrap this up in a few minutes. But it's an interesting link to what you've learned along the way, because making that bet to do, and I think you said it's at least three fundraisers and put a huge amount of money into building the platform, that is a big bet. And the market has certainly in the last couple of years really punished firms that don't get to the profitability point. You are there. So I think you've built, I guess the investment guys would call it a fairly substantial moat and an investment in the platform. And are clearly hitting the ARR targets. If you were to sort of boil some of that down, some of the experiences we were talking about, what have you learned along the way? What would you take away from your sort of founder's journey to date that might be interesting for our audience?
Plenty of things. I think if I can say, if you want to build something, to build a nice company, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, you should really do it. I don't see any downside of doing it. Either it's a success, or either you fail. But if you fail, you have to fail. If you fail, try to fail quickly, because then you just have lost a little bit of time, but then you will find easily another company that will be happy to hire you because of the experience you had by trying to do a business. So it's worth it to try to build a company. What else? On the other advice is, like, for me it worked, and I think it worked a lot for a lot of entrepreneurs, is to build something in a space that you like, and also in a space that you had some frustration. My case, I was frustrated by the poor service from banks. So I couldn't understand why the price was so high, why the features you had as a business to do a payment were so bad. The full experience for me in a typical bank to do cross-border payment was very bad. So I was frustrated as a client. Actually, I wanted to fix this frustration. And I think it's a good way to build a company because it can make you very successful to work on frustration. So if you are frustrated by something, if you try to fix it, probably it could be a success.
So just get started. The only way to really learn and develop is total immersion. And I know that from when we started, and you sort of tell 3 people you're going to do something. And once you've done that, you're sort of committed and then the rest follows. But that point about starting with something where you have direct experience and a frustration. So you're really speaking when you're pitching the business and shaping your plans, you're really speaking with passion and direct experience. That's going to make all the difference talking to your clients and your investors.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and what are you reading or listening to currently, if you have time?
Yeah. So if I have time, so I'm right now I'm reading a book that I think it's cool. It's called. What it's called? It's the five type of wealth. I don't know if you know this book, but it's because for very long I was thinking that wealth was only linked to financial success, and actually in the book they show you that it's financial success is only one type of wealth, and there are probably 5 different types, which is one is time, the other one is social wealth, the other one is physical wealth, the other one is social wealth also. And it's very interesting because to work on each of them, actually the weight of each of them is equally important. And I can give you an example I really like in the book. It's about the time, and because it's working very well. It's said that if you look at the success of Warren Buffett is extremely successful, but he's 94 years old today. And so if you are 20 years old today, and you are broke, are you ready to swap your life with the life of Warren Buffett, knowing that he's 94? So probably you won't have, 80 years in front of you. Most of the people, most of the people would say no. They would say, I want to keep my life. On the other way around, that Warren Buffett probably, if you ask him if he would be happy to swap his life and to be 20 years again, he would say, yes, I want to do that, and to be broke and to be 20 years old. I mean, the idea is that when you are 20 years old, you have like 2 billions of seconds in front of you, which is actually you're a billionaire in terms of time. So, which is really cool. So you have to enjoy it a lot. So time is very important. So all this book is about stuff like this. It's very interesting. I like it.
So that's the recommendation, the 5 types of wealth. We'll put that in the show notes. And, when we were talking a few minutes ago about all the different currencies, my observation is sometimes that the most important one is time, and thank you for giving your time to come on the show today. If anyone wants to find out more about IBAN First or about you and contact you, Pierre, where do they go?
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Yeah, definitely. So you said, what did you say? Sorry, you said...
I was just asking where folks should go if they want to contact you and find out more about IBAN First.
Yeah, you can contact me on LinkedIn and easily, or you can have my email. You can send me my email pad@IBanFirst or.
We'll put Pierre's LinkedIn in the show notes. These days, that's almost an obvious question because it's all out there on the website and everyone's on LinkedIn.
Exactly, and also actually, so I've got a lot of salespeople working at IBAN First, and they have system like every salespeople in every organization where you can find everything about everybody. So if we look at Tony, we have probably your mobile phone number, your address, and everything is easy to get. So me, I prefer to give it. Say okay, call me if you want, send me an email if you want, because anyway, if you really want to find it, you find it very easily. So,
it's not hard to find people these days. But thank you again. Thanks for coming on the show. Great conversation, and something there for everyone in our audience, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tony.